Now that we've created our new catalogue parts and our new spec, let's test them out in a piping model. If you don't have Plant installed, just follow along with the video to see how it will work. And if you do have Plant installed, let's open it up and see how we did. Now we're going to open the project spec test, and for you can find that by going to drop-down menu, Open, Desktop, Exercise Files, 0307, Spec Test, and selecting the project XML. And that will take you to this location. And then once you're open, come down to your Plant 3D drawings and open the piping model. So if we check down here in our piping specs, we should see the LinkedIn CS150 that we've created through the duration of the course here, and that should be available for us to use in this project. Okay, so now for the moment of truth. So I have the LI CS150 spec already loaded in here, and you can see at the tool palette, you can see all the components that we added. It's a very small spec. We only have a few components, but it's enough that we can get the concept. So we have our 2 elbows that we added, our weld neck flange, some regular pipe, and our 3 valves. So let's test this out. And to do that, we're going to come up to our 4-inch, make sure you're on the LinkedIn spec, and we're going to route some pipe. So I'm just going to start with a run, and you'll see that it did pick up that we have the 90-degree elbow available here. And one more turn, and you'll see there's our 90, and there's our 45. So both our elbows are working just fine. So let's come down to the end of the pipe, and we're going to grab a flange. I'm going to pop that on the end, and you'll see the weld neck flanges work fine too. And we can continue on with our piping. No issues. So we'll just check our valves really quickly. So in this case, we had a flange. We'll read the description. We specified that we wanted a raised face flanged 150-pound butterfly valve. And again, if we've done this correctly, that should place with the mating flanges. And there we go. There's your 4-inch butterfly valve. And let's just quickly test a gate valve. We have a welded gate valve. And we also have a flanged gate valve. So all the components that we added to our spec, we can use in our model. So we'll just quickly test out one more size. Actually, we'll do 2 more sizes. Let's do one of the large sizes here. So we're going to test these same components out in a 12-inch. Let's do a 45. I'm going to take the flange on here. Let's place a valve. So there's your 12-inch butterfly valve. Here's your 12-inch welded gate valve. And here's your 12-inch flange gate valve. So you'll see all sizes are available. So we have a 4-inch and we have a 12-inch. So just one last thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to select a 1-inch line here. And there's a reason we're going to use that 1 inch. I'm just going to come and throw in a little bit of pipe down here. So we're going to run a straight run of pipe. We're going to come and do a 90-degree, 45. So again, the components are all available. I want to watch what happens when I select a valve. I'm going to drop in a 1-inch flanged gate valve, which is available with no issue. We're going to have the beveled welded gate valve, and that placed with no issues too. Now watch what happens when I try and place this butterfly valve. You'll see when I drop that in there, the shape's changed. It didn't actually place a butterfly valve on that line. What it's done, now if you remember right at the beginning, we talked about the placeholder part. If you need a valve that's not available in your spec, the Plant program will substitute this with a placeholder. So if we actually look over and hover over this component, you can see that it does know that it's a 1-inch valve, but it's pulling it from a spec called Placeholder Imperial. And what that's telling me is if you're placing a 1-inch butterfly valve on this line, somewhere in a P&ID document, you've been asked to do that, but that valve doesn't actually exist in our spec. So this is the way that you can flag to say that something needs to be added to your spec that's not there, or you've been told to add a valve that shouldn't be there. So just to double check, we come up to this part up here, this little button up in our part insertion for our spec viewer. We're going to open up our spec just from inside Plant, and we're going to scroll down to look at our valves. And you can see that, in fact, the smallest butterfly valve that we're permitted to use in this spec is 4-inch. So if we try to place a butterfly valve on a line smaller than 4, it's not going to allow us to do that because it's not a spec'd part. So if you do see this placeholder, this gets flagged and your checkers then know that we need to change that valve. So this is a good way to catch inconsistencies and to understand what needs to be in a spec and what can't be in a spec. So everything looks like it's working fine. So you can see all the components we added are available to use in the model, and the spec's fairly easy to use. And when you're building them using the spec editor tool, always remember you have to check any new or modified components before you begin to model.